Okay, let's set the scene. It's New Delhi, November 10th, 2025. Imagine that evening transition. The workday rush is just starting to ease off. You've got that familiar, almost comforting hum of traffic near the Red Fort, such an iconic spot, steeped in history, emperors, independence, everything. But then, that evening, that feeling just shattered. It happened just after dusk near the Red Fort metro station. A slow-moving car, something you wouldn't look twice at, suddenly erupts, a massive fireball. The devastation was just horrific. We're talking 12 lives lost instantly, streets scorched, and, well, a deep scar left on the city.
Yeah, and what happened that Monday night, it wasn't just some localized tragedy. When we really dig into it, you see this incident send out three really distinct and powerful shockwaves across the country. First, you've got this undeniable security failure. I mean, right in the heart of the Capitol, how does that happen? Second, almost immediately, a massive political firestorm ignites, demands for answers, for accountability right at the top. And third, maybe the most chilling part, is what the investigation started to uncover, this sophisticated terror plot, the kind that really makes you rethink who could be involved.
Right. So that's our mission today, really, to unpack those three waves. How could something this devastating happen right there, literally kilometers from the Intelligence Bureau headquarters? That's the big question we need to get into. Okay, let's start peeling back the layers. The immediate aftermath. It sounds just brutal. Accounts describe this thick, black smoke billowing against that historic backdrop. People just scattering in panic. Emergency crews facing utter chaos.
Yeah.
And the impact was so severe they actually had to seal off the Red Fort itself for 3 whole days, basically putting that entire area on lockdown.
And we absolutely have to remember the human cost here. It gets lost sometimes in the politics and the investigation details. These weren't high-profile targets. They were just ordinary people, commuters, office workers heading home, students. And, the reports mentioned a young mother and her child. Just heartbreaking. The grief outside the hospitals.
Yeah.
You heard relatives asking that raw question, how many more have to die before someone takes responsibility? That really grounds everything else, doesn't it?
It does. And the government, they clearly felt that pressure immediately. Prime Minister Modi visiting the victims in the hospital wards. It was a very public gesture, right? Trying to show they understood the gravity, vowing that those behind this cowardly act will not be spared.
A necessary vow, certainly. But it couldn't really stop the political tide that was already turning. As soon as the initial shock wore off, the focus snapped right onto, well, systemic failure. And that's when the political thunderclap really hit. And it was aimed directly at the Union Home Minister.
Okay, so this is where the political strategy comes in. The opposition didn't just condemn the attack generally. They went specific. They named names.
They did. Congress General Secretary K.C. Venugopal, he came out swinging. He talked about serious lapses, even bordering on negligence within the security setup. But he didn't stop there. He explicitly called for the resignation of Union Home Minister Amit Shah right away.
Wow, okay. That's a huge escalation politically. And he used a historical parallel to back that up, didn't he?
He did, and it was a very deliberate choice. He brought up the 2006 Mumbai blasts. He basically argued that back then, under the previous government, the Home Minister resigned, citing moral accountability. So Venugopal's point was, if that was the standard then, it has to be the standard now. Especially, he argued, because this happened in Delhi, theoretically the most secure city in India.
Is that a fair comparison, though, given the differences in the attacks? Or is it purely, political maneuvering?
Oh, it's definitely a political weapon, no doubt about it. But it's one that's grounded in a precedent, which makes it potent. The opposition knows that moral accountability is a powerful phrase. And the most pointed jab, I think, was when Venugopal brought up the Home Minister's past statements about ensuring safety, and then said this blast exploded practically in his backyard. That wording is designed to sting, suggesting failure in the one place it absolutely shouldn't happen.
And it wasn't just Venugopal. The pressure came from the top of the Congress party, too. Mallikarjun Kharge called it a stark failure of the whole government.
Right. Kharge took a slightly broader view. He really hammered the point that this was a major terror attack in Delhi, the home base for all the top intelligence agencies like the IB. And he made it clear this wasn't going away. He vowed to drag the whole issue, the lapses, the failures, the accountability question, into Parliament for the winter session starting December 1st. That guarantees this stays in the headlines for weeks, if not months.
And then you had allies joining in, too, like the Trinamool Congress.
Yeah, they piled on. The TMC demanded a court-monitored special investigation team, an SIT, basically saying they didn't trust an internal government probe to be impartial. They used the phrase industrial-scale failures. Strong language.
Of course, the ruling party, the BJP, they weren't just going to sit back and take this.
Yeah.
What was their response?
Well, they pushed back hard. Their counter-narrative shifted blame away from immediate security lapses. They pointed towards what they called appeasement politics, the implication being that certain policies had created an environment where these kinds of extremist threats could grow and fester. So it became less about this specific incident's security and more about a deeper ideological clash over the root causes. It really shows how a tragedy like this immediately gets sucked into existing political battles.
But while all that political back and forth was happening, the investigation itself started moving in a really unexpected and frankly quite shocking direction. The case got handed over pretty quickly to the NIA, the National Investigation Agency. And what they started finding, it really didn't fit the standard narratives at all.
No, it didn't. What the NIA uncovered is being described as a white-collar terror module. And that term itself is, well, deeply unsettling. We're not talking about the kind of marginalized, easily influenced individuals sometimes portrayed. This suggests a level of sophistication, education, and integration into society that's quite alarming.
And the specifics really bear that out, don't they? The NIA arrested 8 suspects initially, and the detail that jumped out at everyone, 3 of them were doctors.
Yeah.
From a medical college.
Exactly, and that's significant on so many levels. First, it completely blows up typical profiling methods. These are educated professionals, people with status, likely with access to resources they can blend in easily. Second, think about the trust factor. Doctors hold positions of immense institutional trust. It provides a kind of camouflage. And third, depending on their specific fields, they might possess specialized knowledge, chemical, biological, logistical, that could be incredibly useful for, planning and executing attacks, maybe even sourcing materials.
And the alleged scale of what this group was planning, it goes way beyond that one car bomb near the Red Fort.
Way beyond. The simultaneous raids across different states, they turned up an absolutely staggering amount of explosives. We're talking 2,900 kilograms. Just think about that number. 2,900 kilos. That clearly indicates the Red Fort bombing wasn't the main event. It points to plans for something much, much bigger, a series of coordinated, catastrophic attacks that were thankfully averted.
And the investigation quickly drew lines connecting this group to known dangerous organizations.
Yes, the NIA sources indicated links to established militant outfits. They specifically mentioned Jaish-e-Mohammed, JEM, the well-known group based in Pakistan, and also Ansar Ghazwat-ul-Hind, which is seen as more of an al-Qaeda affiliate operating regionally. So while the suspects arrested were Indian professionals, the investigation suggests the network, the ideology, maybe the funding, had connections reaching beyond India's borders.
And the geographical reach within India itself was pretty wide too, wasn't it? It wasn't just Delhi.
No, the network they started mapping out spanned multiple states, from Kashmir down through Haryana into Uttar Pradesh. It suggests a well-entrenched, dispersed operation, not just a single, isolated cell, deeply embedded.
There was also that detail about one specific individual, Dr. Umar, a Kashmiri doctor. The theory is that his actions might have actually triggered the Red Fort blast itself.
That's a key part of the current investigation, yes. The working theory seems to be that Dr. Umar might have panicked. Perhaps he thought they were about to be caught, or maybe something went wrong with the plan, and in that moment of panic, he allegedly triggered the detonation of that car bomb prematurely. It's a chilling thought, but it implies the Red Fort blast, as horrific as it was, might have actually been a mistake, a desperate act that inadvertently stopped the much larger plot involving those thousands of kilos of explosives found elsewhere.
So as we head towards that parliament session, you've got this incredibly tense mix. There's the very real public grief and anger. Then there's this fierce political battle with accusations flying and historical scores being settled. And underpinning it all is this urgent, ongoing NIA investigation into a terror network that looks unlike anything we've typically focused on: educated, professional, widespread.
It really is a convergence point. If you look at the bigger picture, the political drama in Parliament is almost guaranteed. The demands for resignations, the BJP's counter-arguments about appeasement, that's going to dominate. But the fundamental question, I think, is deeper. Will this shock, the shock of the attack itself, and the shock of discovering who was allegedly behind it, actually lead to meaningful changes? Will it force a reform of intelligence gathering, of security protocols to deal with this kind of insider threat? Or will it just become another point-scoring exercise in the political arena?
Yeah, that Red Fort blast obviously left a physical scar on Delhi, but maybe the deeper impact is psychological. It forces everyone, doesn't it, to confront this uncomfortable idea about the face of terror in today's world. It's not necessarily the caricature we might imagine. It could be someone deeply integrated into society, someone you trust.
Which leaves us with a really critical question to think about for you listening. When you find 2,900 kilograms of explosives, and the suspects include highly educated professionals like doctors, what does that tell us about potential blind spots? Not just in security gates and checkpoints, but in our assumptions. What level of institutional failure, maybe in vetting, maybe in internal monitoring, maybe just in how we perceive threats, has to exist for a plot this sophisticated, this enormous, to apparently take root right under the nose of the Capitol? That's something to really ponder as this whole story continues to unfold.